Take a look at these beauties on the screen. They're the top 24 most valuable cards of the Scarlet and Violet era. Today, I want to look at the top 50 most valuable cards and even take it a step further and look at all the cards worth $20 and above. As collectors and investors, this is the kind of information we need to keep on top of to help us analyze the past and plan for the future. Now, let's get to it. According to TCG Player, Paradise Resort 150 is the #1 most valuable card in all of Scarlet and Violet. However, if you look up the card on eBay, you can pick one up for about $420, which actually puts it slightly below the current market price of the Pikachu from Surging Sparks, which is currently at $460. But it's worth noting that these staff cards are very rare, and if you don't work at the events, you're going to have a hard time or an expensive time getting them. There are 3 total in the top 50 cards, but this one far outpaces all of the others just because of how rare it is. So let's talk about the rest of the top 24 here. You might notice a common theme. There's actually 6 Surging Sparks card on this list. I knew that set was going to be absolutely fantastic. So many huge hits. Very, very difficult to get them. And Pikachu is the most beloved Pokemon, of all time. And clearly, people want that card. And when people want it, investors want it. And it's just a cycle. They just, together, keep driving it up. And here we are, $463 for the current market value of that card. Absolutely insane. But there's 5 other cards from that set in here. We got the Latias. We got the Pikachu Gold card, which again, it's just crazy, crazy high because it's Pikachu. And because the collectors and investors are going back and forth, driving it up. Is it the most beautiful card ever? Definitely not. I do like the Pikachu, the EX Special Illustration Rare a lot. I think the artwork is great. It's not as revolutionary as the Chonkachu Rainbow. However, it's still a beautiful card. And, the set Surging Sparks is just absolutely fantastic. Easily, it's up there with 151. Is obviously they're the best sets of Scarlet and Violet. But, I think there's an Evolution set on the way that might have something to say about that. We'll see how it goes with no illustration rares or very few illustration rares and a very interesting pull rates possible. We'll have to see how that set goes. But anyways, today let's stay on the top 50 right now as we end 2023. We got the Milotic Special Illustration Rare, absolutely beautiful artwork. It is starting to drive up. Hydreigon EX is in here. Even Executor is in here. And those are our 6 in here, all from Surging Sparks. It is far and away has more top 24 than any other set. The next set is going to be Temporal Forces and 151 with 3 each. Temporal Forces has Walking Wake, which barely made the list here. It's got Iron Crown, which is right over here. And Raging Bolt, right there, $104. I almost picked that up this weekend, but it was about $100, I think. It may have been $90, but I didn't like the condition on it, and I decided to pass. In the monthly pickup video, I'll show you what I did get. I got one of these other guys from the set, this one right here, and added that to my collection, which you may have seen if you follow me on Instagram. And I think Temporal Forces is a fantastic set with 3 cards up here. Again, only Surging Sparks is outpacing it. The other one is 151. You can see Blastoise right behind me. Obviously, Charizard's up there. And Venusaur. It always hurts me that the Venusaur doesn't command as much money as the Blastoise. The Venusaur artwork is just absolutely phenomenal. I pulled a bunch of the Venusaur, and I didn't pull Charizard or Blastoise at all. So 151 is nowhere near Surging Sparks. And don't tell me it's because Surging Sparks just came out. It definitely plays a factor because there does seem to be a lot of people who just bought it up, and now it's very difficult to get any of it. I don't know when and if we're going to get any more of it, but once things go up, it's hard to bring them down. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future. We could see, if we do see a big reprint of Surging Sparks, definitely that Pikachu could drop $100, but I'll be surprised if it drops much more than that. I don't think it deserves to be above 300. I like it at 300. I know it says there's listings at 275, but those are Japanese, the Japanese versions. The market price is definitely 460 right now. And Surging Sparks, absolutely phenomenal. Other than that, we got Twilight Masquerade has 2 cards in here, and then Paldea Fates has 2 cards in here, and Stellar Crown only has the 1 Poor Terapagos. That's really the main thing you're getting out of that set as far as special illustration rares. Other than that, you're going to want the art rares of Squirtle and Bulbasaur. While Surging Sparks looks like king if you just look at the top 24 cards, if you go all the way to 50 most valuable cards of Scarlet and Violet, 151 takes a small lead with 9 total cards. Here we can see the Charmander right above me, Squirtle over there, Charizard, and I think there's one more here. Oh yeah, Zapdos is up there with a current market value of about 52, 57. And then on the next page, we got Bulbasaur illustration rare and the Alakazam special illustration rare to round us out with 9 total cards from 151, showing that it is still king if you look at the top 50 most valuable cards. Surging Sparks only steps up to 8, adding in the Alicia's Appeal up there and Jasmine's Gaze, which barely made the top 48 here. Stepping down, we got Stellar Crown only adds 2 in here with the Bulbasaur and the Squirtle to my left over here. And then Twilight Masquerade adds in 2 more with the Eevee illustration rare and the Perrin special illustration rare up there. Temporal Forces just adds in 1 with the Gouging Fire. And the beloved Paldea Evolved adds in 1 itself with Iono, bringing it up to 2. Why is there so much praise around Paldea Evolved? Maybe it's not warranted. The top 50 cards only have 2 Paldea Evolved cards in total. One thing clearly of note in the top 50 cards here is there's 8 Pokemon Center promos. Clearly, it's a no-brainer. When the Pokemon Center ETB comes out with a Pokemon Center exclusive, you should be buying it up. Because there's 8 of them on here. In the top 50. Now, one of them came with the UPC from 151, so that's a little different, but the other 7 were all in the ETBs. So all in all, the top 50 clearly show us that 151 is still king. Surging Sparks is still right behind it. And honestly, between the two, I'd rather be ripping 151. The hits are just a little bit easier, a lot easier, and it's going to be a lot more fun down the road. So it's definitely a fantastic set. There's definitely a lot of value based on today's current markets for that Surging Sparks. But again, those hits are hard to come by. Looking at these, I feel a little more down about Paldea Evolved. I don't feel as excited about it, knowing that there's only 2 cards out of the whole set that are in the top 50. But that made me want to look a lot deeper. What if I go all the way to how many cards are worth $20 and up in each of these sets? And so I went through and I figured that out and I added them all up so I could share them with you guys. 2 sets can deliver us the most cards worth $20 or more, and that's Surging Sparks and 151 again. Both of them have 14 cards based on the current market values that are above $20. In Surging Sparks, we have 9 special illustration rares that are above the $20 mark. You would generally assume that most special illustration rares would be above the $20 mark, but clearly non-desirable ones are not like that. So here we have 9 of those. There's actually Executor doesn't quite make that $20 mark, so I didn't count it, but it's right near there. Clearly the gold Pikachu. The golds are obviously very hard to get. Special illustration rares are very hard to get. We do have 2 illustration rares that are above the $20 mark, the Latios and the Cerulege. So there is a little bit of variability here, but it's mostly reliant on those special illustration rares. And clearly, the god of all pulls is that Pikachu. And I would expect this Night Stretcher to drop in value again as soon as it goes out of rotation from play. playability in the TCG game. And with 151, we've got 6 special illustration rares above the $20 mark. We got 7 illustration rares, and we got the 1 full art with the Charizard over there. Clearly, these cards are a lot easier to pull than any of those hits in Surging Sparks. So again, 151, man, if you're gonna buy or invest, still clearly the way to go. But there's a lot to be said about Surging Sparks. I think it's still a fantastic set. Shrouded Fable with 12 cards above the $20 mark is next. Are you sleeping on this set? I wouldn't say I'm sleeping, because some of these cards are definitely going to be rotated out, like Earthen Vessel up there, and Pecharunt might not be as desirable in the future. However, Houndoom, Duskull, Persian, Dusknoir, and Dusclops didn't make the $20 mark, but in the future, I think it has the potential for it. You got the Okidogi SIR, Pheasantipity, again, that's a very playable card being driven up. Cassiopeia is probably about where it should be. The gold energies, the metal, and the darkness, they don't really go out of style. They don't rotate out, so you can keep using them in the TCG game. If people want to bling out their deck with all gold energies, these are going to be desirable in the future unless other gold ones get reprinted. But that could be a lot of years from now. Now, I ripped myself a Kingdra box last night just for fun, and I got a Dusknoir right here. Super awesome card. That was the only thing I got in the whole box. You guys aren't buying them, so when things sit for a long time, I feel entitled to rip some of my inventory. Temporal Forces comes in next with just 9 $20 cards. It's starting to get a little more skimpy here on the $20 and above cards, but there's some awesome cards in this set. You can see all the special illustration rares are pretty much up there, including Morty's Conviction, and Iron Boulder barely making the $20 cut there. On the illustration rare front, we just have the Ghastly, and Sawsbuck doesn't quite make it, but clearly there's a lot of Sawsbuck fan, and the Sawsbuck combo with Deerling over here, which is a little bit hidden, has a current market price of about $12. Even when I was at the card show this last weekend, I saw somebody like, oh, I really need the Sawsbuck and Deerling combo. So it's definitely a hot ticket. And I think this Airy is a super awesome card, especially with Airy getting reprinted without all her mask and makeup in the next set. Just like Temporal Forces, Twilight Masquerade also has 9 cards above the $20 mark. I'm not as excited myself about Twilight Masquerade personally. It's all about hitting that Greninja and the Eevee. Those are really the only 2 cards that I find super desirable. I do think that the other cards have really cool artworks. I like the Blood Moon a lot personally. Carmine, Kieran, take it or leave it. The Perrin is really nice just because Growlithe is in there. And as much as I love Lana, I'm just not really digging Lana's Aids artwork. And from here, we drop down to only 7 cards each for Stellar Crown, Paradox Rift, and Paldea Evolved. So it's starting to get really bleak for those valuable cards when you start ripping those sets. Paldean Fates only has 6 cards, and from there you drop down to Scarlet and Violet, which only has 3 cards above the $20 mark. That Miriam, the Gardevoir, which I think is super undervalued, and the Ralts. And last and least, Obsidian Flames, with only 2 cards above the $20 mark. Charizard, you can't carry a set anymore. No, really, it's Pokemon's fault. They just made Charizard way too easy to get. This set was super easy. It was a lot of fun to rip when it came out. Some really cool looking special illustration rares like the Pidgeot over there, the illustration rare, the Cleffa, and the Scissor. Some nice cards in here, but way too easy. Even the booster boxes were dirt cheap, so getting what you want happened pretty quickly. And if you don't have it, you might as well get it now, especially that Charizard, because it's pretty damn cheap. All in all, I think these numbers give us a good picture about Scarlet and Violet. I think I underestimated Shrouded Fable a little bit. I think Temporal Forces and Twilight Masquerade are kind of where I thought they would be. Temporal Forces out edges Twilight Masquerade a little bit for me. Paradox Rift, I don't really think we're sleeping on it that much. It's kind of where it belongs based on how many cards are in that above $20 mark, which is kind of lower middle. If anything, clearly the picture is there for Obsidian Flames, SV1. I think SV1 looks fantastic as a complete set. I think it's a fun rip, reasonable to get the hits that are in there. Great illustration rares, but it's still sitting way near the bottom, the top of the bottom, with Obsidian Flames well underneath it. Clearly, I want to get all the Pokemon Center ETBs from now on. I'm not going to sleep and wait on it. You want to grab those as soon as they come up for sale. And man, I don't know. I think I need to start volunteering for the next Pokemon tournament that comes around me so I can get some of those staff cards. What do you guys think of these numbers? Did you learn anything today, or is it pretty much exactly where you thought everything was supposed to be? I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and I'll catch you in the next video.